bring sunglasses. Definitely bring a hat. This first bed here on the corner is probably my favorite. Good morning and welcome back to the vlog. It's an early one today. I've been up since about 10 after 5. I had to get up early because today we are headed to the Brimfield Flea Market, and that is located in Brimfield, Massachusetts. So if you're not familiar with this, it's a huge week-long flea market antique show, and it's held 3 times a year. It's enormous. You simply cannot cover it in one day. Today is Sunday and it's actually the last day. I've never gone on the last day before, but I've heard that vendors are more willing to negotiate because if they don't sell things, they have to pack them up and take them home. So they might be a little more willing to drop their prices. So I'm excited about that. It's just fields and fields and fields of vendors. I think some of the fields are closed because it's the last day and they don't run every single day of the market, but I assure you there will still be plenty of shopping to do. I have a cart with me. I've brought snacks, water, extra bags. I just stopped at the ATM to get cash out, very important. And of course my coffee because my eyeballs are barely opening. So anyway, we've got about an hour and some change left in the car, and once we get there, we will unload and start shopping. Okay, we made it. I just parked in, I think this is actually someone's house, but there's parking all along the street as you get here, and it's usually about $10 to park. So I'm going to unpack my cart, load everything up. I'm going to bring my coffee with me. I definitely need to find a bathroom because I've been sucking this coffee down, so I'd rather do that early while it's not busy quite yet. Traffic was not that bad and this parking lot's nearly empty, so definitely pays to get here early. Okay, so I walked all the way down the road just to kind of see where things were at, and now I'm just slowly making my way back to where I parked, and I'll kind of jump into the fields. There are vendors spread among both sides of the street through all these fields, and people are just starting to open, so it's a little bit slow, but it's nice and quiet, which is nice. These are cool. Bunch of old corbels. These are very cool, but I wish the base was round. But those would be cool on like a centerpiece of a dining room table. Post office boxes. These drawings are so pretty. It's taken me a lot not to get all of these, but I've probably read half of them. Okay, these chairs are amazing, but he said $1,500 each, so that is a big fat no for me. So I will keep hunting. I've seen them pop up on Facebook Marketplace for like $50, $100, $150 each, so I will just keep my eyes peeled. Okay, we did it. We Brimfielded. I wish I could have taken more video of me like shopping, but the booths are so tight, and the later it gets in the morning, the busier it gets, and it is just crazy. So I'm glad I walked all the way to the end and started down there and then worked my way back to the car, because most people don't do that. They park when they first arrive and then they start working their way to the back. Obviously not all the booths were open when we started because it was so early, but it was worth it to work backwards. It didn't feel as crazy. It started off pretty cool today, which was kind of nice. I've been to Brimfield in July and it was nearly unbearable. It was so disgustingly hot and sweaty and gross, so I definitely would not come back in July. September has been magical. It was like 65, but it took a few hours to get up to that, and it was a little bit brisk this morning, but I kind of liked that. I was all bundled up in my vest and my sweater. I really should have put my hat on because the sun was blasting all day and I couldn't see anything. I had to keep like shielding my eyes, and I had my sunglasses on, but then you couldn't see in the tent, so I had to like keep popping them up and putting them down. But definitely bring sunglasses, definitely bring a hat. If it's a sunny day, you'll be so glad that you did. I actually did not get anything, which surprises me a little bit. Nothing really struck me. Like, there weren't a ton of huge furniture pieces that I was loving. There was one little table that I liked, but it was priced at $250, and even at like 50% off, I was like, it's not the one. Lots of little things, like tons of hardware and like tchotchkes and vases and books and things like that, but I've got so much of what I need at the moment already. I didn't want to just like buy to have. I'm not a big stuff person, so it was fun to just look around and get inspiration and see what's out there. I suspect because it's been a week already and this is the last day, lots of things have been picked over, so this is just what's left. Still tons of stuff, so definitely worth coming on a Sunday, and everybody's like barking at you like, make me an offer, let's make a deal. Like, they definitely want to get rid of things, so that's a good sign. But prices are marked up pretty heavily. Like, things are very expensive here because people know there's going to be negotiation happening. So you kind of have to go into it knowing that if you're not willing to negotiate and there's not like a discount, you might actually be overpaying. But that said, you might not find it anywhere else. So it's kind of like, what's it worth to you? A lot of the things that I love the most in my home, I've found at like little antique markets or thrift shops, or honestly on Facebook Marketplace. And the trick with that is that a lot of people don't actually know what they have. The vendors here, most of them know what they have, so they're pricing things more appropriately. But that's not to say you can't get a good deal. If you're getting a few things from a vendor, they will usually, give you a bulk discount. Like if you're getting a few things, definitely worth it to have the cart, but it is kind of a pain as it gets busier because you have to like find little nooks to park it in because you can't bring them through the tent. They're just so tight. But still worth it to carry your stuff, and obviously if you're buying things, have a place to put that stuff. My feet are tired, my back is tired. All that walking on just like uneven ground and gravel and pavement is rough, so wear good walking shoes. And honestly, if you have a small chair, put it in your wagon because there's not a lot of places to pull over and just sit for a minute. And if you had a chair to just like pull over and take a seat and get off your feet for a few minutes, it actually might help you sustain, for the day. I hope that gave you a little bit of a glimpse into it. Definitely worth coming. Anyway, that's a wrap on Brimfield. I will meet back up with you when we get home, and maybe we'll do a little garden tour. It's been a while since you've seen that. Again, somehow it is Friday. Don't ask me how that happened, but it is Friday, And before I give you a little garden tour slash update, I am going to show you a few clips from my pottery class last night. So last week I had my first week, and sorry if you can hear the dogs wrestling with the ball right next to me, but last week I had my first class and I was just learning to throw on the wheel. It was like a super crash course, really fast, 2 hours. And this week we did some more throwing, we did some trimming of the pots we made the last class. We talked about a few different techniques, so I will show you a little bit of what I worked on. I was very excited because I actually was able to make some bowls this week, and that's all I wanted to make last week and I just couldn't make it happen. But week 2, I did make a little bit of progress. Seeing a little bit of that. It's been so much fun just being creative. Like, there's no end goal. I don't even care if I make anything. I'm just having fun learning and getting comfortable with throwing on the wheel. It's so different than what I'm used to when I've worked with clay in the past, and it's just really satisfying to see this little lump of clay turn into something that you will eventually be able to fire and glaze and use in your kitchen or put little trinkets in. And I love that kind of stuff. So I will continue to share updates. At the very least, I will come out of this with a glazed vase and bowl, and I believe a plate as well, which we'll be working on next week. So more to come on that. But before we wrap up this week, I wanted to give you an update on the gardens because it has been forever since I have showed you that. I mean, I totally went ham showing you all of the seed starting, all the seedling progress, and then once I started the office project, I could not keep up with filming that and the garden stuff and just doing regular life and work tasks. So I'm sorry about that. My bad. Hopefully I can do better next year and figure out a good balance. Nevertheless, I am going to share with you what it looks like now that it's fall. We've still got a ton growing. Some things are at the end of their life. Some things didn't do so great. Some things went a little sideways mid-season because of weather or whatever, but it's not done yet and we've still got plenty to harvest. So I will flip the camera, show you the raised beds, show you the pumpkin patch, not as exciting as the raised beds, and I will pop over to the front garden. From this angle, the beds look crazy full. This first bed here on the corner is probably my favorite. Every day I just come out here and stare at it. These white flowers are the garlic chives that have gone to flower and are going to seed. And I don't know if you can see, I'm trying to get up close without them all flying away, but there are so many bees. They have been loving it. All of the flowers that we added to the garden have been hugely beneficial. So many pollinators, which is really exciting to see. We just did not have that last year. Over here we have an overflow of tomatillos. They always go crazy and I love it. I want them spilling out of the bed like this every year. It's one of my favorite fall items and it just takes over. So they're not quite ready to pick yet. You'll start to see the like outer coating. I don't know what this is, like a shell. It's just like a papery skin. But once it starts getting brown and dry, that's a sign that they are going to be ready to pick. But it's really cool because when tomatillos first grow, this is just like a little bubble filled with air, and at the very top you can feel this little bud that's going to turn into a tomatillo. So you can see this plant is just filled with them everywhere. So we've still got some that are growing, but we've probably got a handful ready to pick. So we'll start making some salsa verde very soon. This front trellis was for our cherry tomatoes. We had 2 different varieties, and as you can see, it went very well. I have a lot of tomatoes I need to pick, so this one has just been really fun. It's such a good centerpiece, and I love just coming out here when I'm working on the garden and having a little cherry tomato snack. So I definitely think I'll do this next year. I don't know if I'll do it on this bed here or on the back trellis and switch the beans and tomatoes, but that is still TBD. The tomato trellises that we built for these center beds worked beautifully. The only downside is they could have been twice as high and we would have had even more tomato production, because once the plants got to the top, they started like trying to find ways to keep growing, so they sort of like draped over and they're coming down the side. But as you can see here as well, we've got tons of tomatoes. I've been picking them for the last several weeks. It did feel like we took a while to get to ripe tomatoes, but now they're coming out our ears. So we've got both of these beds filled with tomatoes and then all of those cherry tomatoes there. We had a cucumber plant here that was sort of draping over the sides, and that did really great, but it's obviously done now. These 2 pepper plants, these were ones I started from seed and they just weren't doing anything for a while. And now we've got all kinds of these little like golf ball sized peppers coming, which is pretty cool. Same with the jalapenos. They just weren't doing great early on, but now we've got some sort of like late peppers on all of the plants, so that's exciting. Eggplants, I did get some small ones and they just keep coming. It's kind of like 1 per plant, and then like once I pick one, then the next one will start to fill out. So I don't know if that's normal, but regardless, we've been able to pick a bunch of those. The shishito peppers have started coming in late. Like, these never happened earlier in the season. I don't know what was going on, but now they are aplenty. And then these 2 big plants here and here, that one's kind of dying, were both zucchini, and we were able to pick a whole bunch from them, but then they got coated in this powdery mildew, and once that happens, it's pretty hard to fight. I did try spraying it with like a homemade solution, but as you can see, it just kind of takes over the whole plant and eventually kills it. If you remember the sage plant, I divided into like 4 and trimmed way back. It just completely exploded again, which is awesome because I will be drying a whole bunch of this to use in some upcoming fall meals. The nasturtium, another favorite. I mean, look at that plant. Look at that. And we've got one here too. It's amazing. It was so slow in the beginning and I was sure nothing would happen. And then all of a sudden, I'm telling you, in early August, this thing exploded. Just tons of flowers, tons of leaves. I love the variegation in the color. Again, not usually a yellow or orange person, but I just love the variety of color in the beds. So I kind of left that as like an open canvas. Anything goes. There's no color scheme, no rules. Just put it in and see what happens. The basil on the end of this back bed came back as usual. It got completely eaten alive by, I believe it was the beetles, early in the season, and the same thing happened last year. It was just literally down to like nothing, just an absolute nub. And now these plants are lush and full, and I have to harvest it soon and make some pesto because it's looking like it's wanting to bolt or go to flower. So I don't want to lose all of this lovely greenery. Behind the basil, I've got more shishito peppers. These were also ones I grew from seed and they were just chugging along, but look at them now Got all of these flowers on this plant here, and even on this back plant. So I'm hoping we'll be able to continue harvesting some peppers for the next few weeks at least. Shishitos are one of my favorite, but I'm telling you, when you pick them, you have to use them really fast because they just get like really shrivelly. If you watched a few vlogs ago, you saw that this trellis fell over sadly in a storm, so we basically had to start from scratch. I pulled all of the beans off and planted some new seeds in hopes that something would grow, and all these ones have latched on. These are all new seedlings over here that I started from seed, and it's starting to grow up. I'm not sure if we will have beans, but even if this thing gets covered in greenery again, I will be so thrilled. This one's already way up to the top there. And in the back here, this bed is the most random, I think. Like, I don't even know what's happening here. It's chaotic. I randomly planted some carrots mid-season, hoping it would work a second time because the first one didn't do very well. And they're growing pretty well. I'm not sure what they look like under the soil, but I'm just gonna let them go and see how long I can wait until I actually need to pull them up. Hopefully we'll have some nice big carrots we can use. Again with the peppers, more big peppers back here. It took forever for them to grow, but now they are all over these plants. The fennel, super bummed about this. It's such a beautiful plant and it did really well, but I don't know if it was missing nutrients or I don't know, something went wrong because it bolted really fast and it didn't develop that nice chunky bulb at the bottom. So I will do it again next year. I'll just have to do a little research on what it likes best to make sure it has the best growing environment. My squash over here in the back did really well until the powdery mildew got to it, and then that was that. So sadly these plants are done. I also had a pumpkin that was like trailing all the way around here and through the fence, and I got one pumpkin. I will pop a photo on screen so you can see what it looks like, but I was happy to at least get one thing out of it. The border garden is not really bordering very well. Some of these things are annuals, so they will come out and we'll put something else there next year. Like all the cosmos are kind of at the tail end, but like the rosemary and the catmint and the hyssop here. This is columbine. This is a flowering allium. So all of those things should come back. I think the soil needs a little love. It seems to be a bit compact, so I'm not sure if the roots are really able to like spread out. I'll have to figure that out, but my fingers are crossed for bigger, better blooms next year over here. And same thing on the opposite side. A handful of these are annuals, but some of them are perennials, and this was looking a little bit sad mid-season, but it's starting to come back with some additional flowers, so I have hopes that it will do well next year. Sweet peas did okay. Like, this did not fall out the way I was hoping it would. We've got a couple final blooms here, but most of the plants are dying. Oh, look at that. I don't know if you can see that very well. Most of the plants are dying and going to seed, so hopefully I'll be able to pluck off some of these seed pods and save and plant seeds next year. I think I might use these trellises we built for something else next year because I think the sweet peas want more sun. So it's very sunny now, but it's really only the last few hours of the day, and I'm wondering if planting the sweet peas in the back bed over there would actually be better suited, and we could put like beans or something else that sort of climbs on these three trellises at the end here. I'm already sweating. I've been out here for like 5 minutes. It was fall like last week, and then all of a sudden summer decided to come back. So I feel like we did pretty well. Definitely better than last year. Lots of learnings and takeaways for the coming years and seasons. I will take some notes when I have time to sit down, but I think it will be even more successful next year because I just understand the sun over in that area a little bit better. I kind of learn more about different diseases and pests that we're going to have to deal with. Some of it I just let go. Like, some of it, it's just not worth the effort, and I tried, and you know, I don't want to fight the pests and diseases all season long, but if, you know, 75% of what we grow still comes through, then I'm happy with that. We are now at the back garden, which, yeah, I let this one go. Gardening's a lot of work, you guys. It just is. And I like to bite off way more than I can chew. That's just the type of person I am. So I had to let this one go a little bit because I just didn't have the time to take care of it. And we don't have water out here. We didn't for most of the season. We now have the rain barrel set up over on the corner of the shed there. But for a long time I had to drag the hose from the house, and I just kept forgetting, or I didn't feel like it, and plants need water. So these were all of the potatoes, and I know I was raving about these. Like, I was telling you how awesome they were and how much fun it was to dig out, and I did dig them out. I just didn't film it for you, which I'm so sorry about. But these first 2 rows I dug up kind of on an as-needed basis. But I was going very slowly, and as time was passing, all of these weeds were growing. And I am sure there are more potatoes buried in here somewhere, but I could not find them for the life of me. So they are just going to compost themselves. Maybe we'll have some random tomatoes, or not tomatoes, potatoes sprouting next year, but I just kind of let this go after I harvested the first few rows. The sunflowers on this back corner did nothing. Like, they got eaten, they were completely mutilated, and just nothing came of that. But over here, they're thriving. So they worked through getting eaten a bit, and they still had a little, you know, nub at the bottom, but they powered through, and they've been flowering late in the season now, and I just love it so much. We can see these out our big picture window in the living room, and they're just such a fun sight to see. They're very tall. I'm hoping we'll be able to harvest seeds from those so we can plant them again next year, so we'll see on that. In the front here is where we had all of the garlic and shallots, and you saw me harvest all of that. This is a good reminder to me though, because I need to order more garlic bulbs and shallot bulbs to plant in the next few weeks for next season. All the snow peas and sugar snap peas are dead. They've been done for a while. Learning here was that this trellis worked really well, but it certainly could have been a lot taller. Compost, have not updated you on that. So it's definitely working. It's just looking like a bunch of dark colored things breaking down. You can't really see in there. But it is working, and it's been a lot of fun. I feel like we're saving so many scraps from the kitchen, and it's really cool to see it turn into something that we will actually be able to put back into the ground. So highly recommend this little contraption. I'm still working on the right side. I've only put like some pine needles and things in the left to prepare myself with that brown material when I start adding the kitchen scraps, but that right side is starting to break down. You all haven't seen the clearing in a while either. I forgot about that. So it's looking really good. Obviously very dead and sad, but good in terms of staying cleared. So Matt's been working on spraying it, and we've been working on just like clearing out all of the weeds. We're not going to do anything with this until at least next season, maybe even longer. We still have to kind of figure out what we want to do with it and turn it into, but most importantly is keeping the weeds and big bushes and things at bay. There are a couple trees that are just looking a little bit sad, like this guy over here. So there's a little bit of final cleanup, but it's just so cool to see this extended from the yard. I mean, I will pop like a video from, gosh, back in March when we started working on this of what it looked like before, but it's just made our property feel so much more open and clear. And you know, I have big dreams, but as we've just learned and reflected on, gardening takes a lot of work. So baby steps, this will become dreamy someday. But in the meantime, we shall reflect on the pumpkin patch, which also got taken over by powdery mildew. We did get plenty of cucumbers. I got a few zucchini. I got some acorn squash, tons of little gourds. There are still some I need to go through and pick. We got a few butternut squash, a few little honey nut squash, and I think we have about 4 pumpkins. So they're not, you know, competitive pumpkins. Like, this will not be going to any sort of pumpkin competition. But I got one of my little flat stackers, which is the white one. I think this is technically a carving pumpkin, though it's quite small. I'm not sure we'll be carving that. This was my Igor variety, which had all the lumps and bumps on it. And I think this might be a gourd. I had one other pumpkin over there. It's another Igor one. And that's all we got. So very cool that we grew these. Was really hoping for like just like a ton of pumpkins, and that did not happen. So shame on me, lesson learned. Definitely need to fertilize over here definitely need to water a bit more and I don't know, do what we can about the powdery mildew, but that's a tough one to fight. So I definitely need to do some research, and if anyone else has encountered that and figured out how to manage it, do let me know. I nearly walked right past my beautiful flower gardens. This has been probably my favorite thing to grow all season. The dahlias, obviously, they're such a prolific flower and they're so beautiful. Now that they've finally started blooming, they did take their sweet time, but now that they're finally here, I've really enjoyed just like clipping them off, you know, a couple at a time and displaying them inside. It's just bringing a little bit of the outside in, and the colors are just to die for. I mean, some of these are absolutely enormous. I mean, this isn't even like a big one. There are ones that are like 2 or 3 times that size, but for me, these guys are huge, and the colors, oh, look at the colors. They're just so striking. So that's been a lot of fun. Fingers crossed that the tubers below ground have been doing well, so I can dig those up and store them for next year. I will hopefully be planting more dahlias. That's my goal. Last but not least, the front garden here. It's definitely doing well. It looks a little sad and dry, but I have to water it. This hydrangea over here is just drooping so badly. The other two are okay, but I planted those earlier, so I think they had a little more time to get comfy in the ground. The rest of the things that I bought sort of mid-season, like the foxglove, are flowering again, and those have been a lot of fun. I did try to collect some seeds, but I think I need to wait until they're dried out a little bit more. They were just a little bit green, so I don't think they were quite ready. The hyssop here and here have done really, really well, and were another flower that the bees and the, you know, all the pollinators were just swarming around, and that was fun to see. The catmint, or not catmint, sorry, the Russian sage, it got kind of eaten a little bit by, I think, beetles or something, and then it took a little bit to come back, so I'm hoping that next season it will fill out, because if it does, Russian sage gets so full and big, and it's an easy one to divide. The rest of these little guys, like the Carpathian harebells, these will come back great next year. It's sort of past its flowering time, but it's still a cute little green mound. And, you know, like the salvia is at the end of its time, but will come back again next year. So really trying to work more on the perennial gardens, because once they're established, it's a lot less work. Tons of tidying and weeding and things that need to happen, but I've done the best I can to stay on top of it with everything else going on, and all things considered, I'm pretty happy with like year 1 of all the flower gardens. I don't really know what I expected, but yeah, we did all right. So I know that was like a super speed tour of the gardens, but hopefully that gives you a little taste of what's been going on and where things are at now. I will try to do better next year. Like I said, I have just been like, you know, reacting, and I'm more of a planner. I don't like to do that, but it's definitely been a learning experience incorporating vlogging into daily life, and I love it. I have so much fun with it. But as I mentioned before, I bite off a lot more than I can chew more often than not, and you know, I still want to have a life too, which yeah, it can be hard for me. So anyway, that's it for this week. Next week we are going to start painting the office. I have been hustling this week to try to get things wood filled and sanded and caulked, and it's going very well. I have just a little bit more to do, but my goodness, is it taking forever. It always does, and it's so hard because you're so close to the paint and you're just ready to see color covering the whole piece you just built. But I want to do it right, and I want to do it well to the best of my ability, of course. So that's where we will pick up next week. I also ordered a couple of wallpaper samples just to see if it might be the right fit. So if I get those in time, I will share those in the next vlog, and yeah, just keeping on with the office. So thank you so much for watching this week. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for future updates. I will see you next week.